Hello everybody, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be looking at the Freewell Hybrid VND CPL 3 to 7 stop magnetic filter kit. And if you're thinking of buying a filter kit to help you take your photography and videography to the next level, this is a filter kit worth considering. So how does it work and what is it good for? Well, watch the video and let's find out. All right, disclaimer time. Freewell sent me this filter kit to review in this video, but the thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are my own. Freewell does not get to watch this video before I post it. So there you go. You're gonna get an honest review from somebody who loves using filters. Oh, and by the way, one more thing, all the talking head bits in this video, including this scene right here, are all being filmed with the V2 filter kit. So if you wanna know what it looks like in a video, you're looking at it. All right, and now let's take a look at what you get in the box. First off, I just want to say thank you to Freewell for reaching out to me about reviewing their new V2 filter. I appreciate the opportunity and I'm happy to help spread the word about this quality product. Okay, let's take a look at what arrived in the mail. First, we have the Hybrid VND CPL 3 to 7 stop V2 filter system. Freewell also sent out their Glow Mist 1/4 strength filter, which conveniently attaches to the V2 filter base system, whatever you want to call it, magnetically, and that's pretty awesome. Inside the box, you'll find a nicely crafted fake leather pouch to protect your filter kit. In the pouch, you'll find a double-sided magnetic rear lens cap, a step-up ring to mount your filter kit to the lens. Here I have an 82mm step-up ring. And finally, the VND CPL filter itself, which also has a magnetic lens cap. Initial impressions of this filter are great, really feels solidly built in the hands. Rings are well dampened and need a good amount of force to turn, which means you're not going to be accidentally turning the rings on this filter, and that's awesome. Inside the second box, you'll find a 1/4 strength Glow Mist filter in its own pouch. For those of you interested in a comparison between the Glow Mist 1/4 strength and the Tiffin Pro Mist 1/4 strength, subscribe to the channel because I'll be making a video about that soon, and I'm curious to see what the difference is between these two filters. I also want to point out that you can get a variety of step-up rings for this system so you can mount it to just about any lens out there. Alright, so big thumbs up to the designers there at Freewell because they did something really cool with this filter. I'm not sure if they're the first people to do it, but I definitely appreciate this. So you have the VND on top of the CPL, and when you turn the CPL, the VND rotates. So they put VND markings, strength markings, on both the top and bottom of the filter. So if you turn that CPL 180 degrees, you're still going to be able to read the VND strengths, and that is awesome. So big thumbs up to the people at Freewell for that. Okay, let me show you how to set up this filter system with your lens. First thing you want to do is mount your base ring to your lens. If your lens has a lower thread radius than your base ring, you can always use generic step-up rings to mount your base ring. Unless you have a reason not to, I would strongly recommend getting the 82mm base ring and using step-up rings to mount this filter system to your smaller lenses. Next, make sure the screw locks are set to the open position. From there, the VND CPL filter should magnetically attach to the base ring. Alright, now you have it mounted. There are two stages to using this filter. First, you have to set the circular polarizer, which is the inner filter. So turn the filter till you have the desired effect, then tighten the screws to lock the CPL in place. Now you can freely turn the VND filter without changing the CPL settings, which is amazing, especially for continuity when it comes to video. And there you go, now you know. Alright, so Freewell also sent me this Glow Mist 1/4 strength filter, which can magnetically attach to the front of the V2 filter kit. So we're just going to put that on there, and you'll see some halation, some glow around the light, and a little glow coming from the window. So let's see this before and after. And if you use these filters correctly in a nice situation with nice lighting, it adds a nice cinematic kind of ambiance to everything, which is pretty cool. But for now, I want to talk about a CPL and a VND. So what are those? If you're new to photography and videography and you're thinking, well, what does that even mean? So CPL stands for circular polarizer and VND stands for variable ND filter. And they both are very awesome. In fact, I would say that every photographer, if you're professional or if you're just getting started, every photographer, every videographer should have a CPL and a VND in their camera kit because they're absolutely awesome and they kind of enhance your photography and videography and take it to the next level. So I'm just going to keep this super brief, but a circular polarizer does two things. One is it gets rid of glare and reflection. So here we're looking at water, and as I turn the filter, you can see that we're seeing through the glare on the surface of the water and seeing right through into the water. So it'll remove glare on water, it'll remove glare in windows, It'll actually make computer monitors turn black depending on the rotation. So it does all sorts of things. And the most important thing to me anyway is not the fact that it gets rid of glare, but it enhances colors. It makes colors pop and they look richer and deeper. You can make blue skies look really deep and rich. It gets rid of the glare on the leaves of the trees, so the tree leaves look a little more green and pronounced. Gives them a little more pop. So it'll kind of saturate the colors in your image, which is really cool. Variable ND filter, basically, I really don't like this saying because anyway, it's like sunglasses for your lens. And what it'll do is as you turn the VND, it'll get darker and darker and darker and darker, and it cuts the amount of light coming into the camera. Now, why would you want to cut the amount of light coming into your camera? Well, I'm glad you asked. All right, so let's talk about why this filter is super handy for video creators, and this is awesome. All right, so right now, we are filming at 4K 24p, and we're filming with a 35mm f1.4 lens. Now, since we're filming at 24 frames a second, our shutter speed needs to be at 50th of a second. And in order to achieve a correct exposure, I have to change my aperture to f6.3. Now, this is fine, the exposure looks good, no problem. But since we're shooting with a 1.4 lens, I'd like to be able to shoot at f1.4 and get a nice creamy background. See, this background at f6.3 is very cluttered and busy, and there's no subject separation. So with a filter like this, you can get subject separation. So let's pop this on the lens and show you what it can do. All right, so here we go. Now we have the V2 filter kit on top of the lens. And the cool thing here is now that the ND filter that's part of this kit cuts the amount of light being able to enter the lens, which allows us to open up the aperture to f1.4, allowing more light to get to the sensor. I know that all sounds confusing if you're not into video, but if we break it down into simple English, it allows us to set this lens to f1.4, which gives us a narrow depth of field. And as you can see, the background behind me is nice and blurred. And there you go, that's the advantage of using this V2 filter kit with your lens, especially if you shoot with fast lenses. It'll allow you to get subject separation, and it's completely subjective whether you like that or not, but me personally, I feel like these blurred backgrounds and the shallow depths of field just kind of isolate your subject matter and give a more polished professional look to your images, your videos, that kind of thing. And yes, this technique also can be applied to photography as well as videography. All right, so here's another example of the V2 filter kit in use. Here we're shooting with the 85mm f1.2, and in this first scene you can see that the background isn't quite blurry. We're not getting those nice big bokeh balls. And here you can see in the second shot we're shooting at f1.2, and the background gets that nice magical blur to it, and you have those bokeh balls, and it just looks completely different. The character of the shot is completely enhanced. So yeah, I definitely like this V2 filter kit. Check this out. Here's a situation where the V2 filter kit came in super clutch. I was doing a shoot in the studio with this anamorphic streak filter. The idea was to get these massive light streaks through the image, and in order to do that, I had to point the studio strobes right at the camera. But obviously with the lights pointed right at the camera, everything is washed out, blown out, so I had to use the Freewell VND filter to cut the amount of light coming into the lens, and that gave me my contrast back and a little bit of Photoshop to bring back a little more contrast in post and make the model's face stand out a little bit more. And wow, overall, super happy with the results. But the point is, you can't do this without a VND filter. All right, so there's a saying I use in business, and that is poor man pays twice. And what that means is, like, if you want to save money, you can buy something cheap and it's okay, and it does a decent job, but then eventually you end up buying something good. And this V2 filter kit is something that I consider good. Like, it's really good, and I'm going to show you some examples right now. But before I get into that, this is like a cheap budget option filter. We're not going to mention which brand it is, but it's, you know, you can get it for 50 bucks on Amazon, and it's a VND. But the issue with these less expensive filter kits is there's a color cast. So even if I look through it here at my desk, you know, look through it, I can see that there's a green color cast. So everything that I shoot with this filter is gonna look slightly greenish, so I have to manually adjust my Kelvin temperature to compensate, or if I'm shooting and I forget to do that, I have to manually adjust everything and correct everything in post. So yes, you're gonna save a bit of money with a cheap $50 filter, but in the end, you're gonna lose a lot of time correcting for all that kind of stuff. So just buy something that works well in the beginning, and you can keep it for the rest of your career. Like this V2 filter kit, like if you invest in it, you have it. And no matter what you do for the next 15, 20 years as a photographer, videographer, you have the filter kit, you can keep using it, you don't have to worry about upgrading. So, like I said, one of the big flaws with a lot of VNDs is the fact that they have a color cast. So here we're gonna look at some photos. Okay, so this is kind of crazy, but if you notice the images, you'll see that the images coming out of the R5 right out of camera are slightly green tinted, and the images shot with the V2 filter kit are properly color corrected, and that's pretty crazy. Here you can see that the reflections in the leather on the Freewell case have disappeared because of the circular polarizer. And circling back to the color correction, the Freewell filters have what's called true color technology. So I've seen this before in Nisi filters, but it enhances the colors and makes everything look more daylight balanced, which is crazy. And that's absolutely awesome because these filters don't destroy the color of your images, but enhance it. So yeah, super thumbs up. Really happy with this filter so far. It's totally awesome. All right, so let's throw the glow mist filter on there so you get a better idea of what it looks like. All right, so let's talk about advantages and disadvantages to using this filter kit. Now, the one cool thing about this, well, actually, usually when you buy a VND kit, you get 2 VND filters. You get a 2 to 5 stop and a 6 to 9 stop. But the problem is usually you're transitioning between 5 and 6. So if you're outdoor shooting someplace and you need a little more darkness, you have to unscrew one filter, screw on another filter, and you have to halt production as you do it. And it's not a huge pain in the butt, but it does slow you down and takes you out of your element. And the cool thing with this is you get a 3 to 7 stop. So this filter sits right in that sweet spot, so you get the best of both worlds and you're not constantly changing filters. So that's the advantage to using this. Now, the disadvantage is if you want that ND2 stop, which is what I usually use. So right now I'm filming with bright window here with natural sunlight coming in. I have a studio light here, and the reason I'm doing that and the reason I chose to film with like natural sunlight coming in through the window is because I can only go down to VND2. And personally, stylistically speaking, I like the light bouncing off my background to the sensor to be at the same level as the light hitting me and bouncing back to the sensor, so I can capture that ambient light and make it look like it's natural light instead of studio light, even though I do have studio lights set up here. So for me, I like that VND2 setting, and this is missing that, but that's a total stylistic choice. If you're using this filter, for example, it's a little more on the darker side, so the light hitting you is going to be more intense than the light hitting the background and coming back. So the backgrounds are typically going to be a little bit darker than your face, so you're going to have to throw lights onto the background to compensate for that. So it's just something to think about. It's not a huge deal. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but depending on where you shoot and how you shoot, it's just something to consider. Now, one place where this filter really shines is if you're shooting outdoors. If you're a run and gun filmmaker, you're shooting outdoors in natural light, super bright light, this VND filter kit is absolutely awesome because, like I said, you're right there in that sweet spot between 3 and 7, and you don't have to stop to change filters, which is a game changer. All right, so what are my thoughts on this filter kit? Is it worth buying? Should you buy it? Is it absolutely necessary? Look, if you don't have a VND and a CPL already, this filter kit is something you should definitely consider. The optical glass that they use is absolutely awesome. You're not losing image quality with this filter kit. There's almost no color cast, which is absolutely amazing, and that's exactly what you're looking for in any kind of filter kit like this. It's easy to install, it's easy to change, it's easy to set up. You get the CPL and the ND all together in one, so it's just one thing in your camera bag instead of 2 or 3. And the other cool thing is you have these additional filters you can buy for it to modify your image, and you can just magnetically stick them on. So all those are pluses. And I just want to say, Freewell sent me this filter kit to review. They did give me some links, which are down in the description, so you can click on them if you want to buy this filter kit. It'll take you to their webpage. So that's an option for you if you want. But overall, I strongly recommend it. If you don't have a circular polarizer and a VND kit, this one is absolutely great. The only one negative, like I said, is it doesn't get down to VND like 1 stop, which is not a huge deal, but just something to consider if you're shooting indoors. And another thing worth mentioning is that if you're shooting with an ultra-wide lens, here I'm shooting with the RF 16 to 35mm. At 16mm, I'm getting some vignette in the corners of my image caused by the filter. Now, this lens has an 82mm filter thread. If your ultra-wide has a smaller filter thread, chances are you probably won't see the vignette, but if you're using this lens, you might have to stop it down to 17 or 18mm to get rid of the vignette. All right, this video is over. Thank you for watching. And if you're into photography and videography, you like learning about photography, videography gear, or you want to learn about tips and tricks and techniques to become a better photographer, videographer, definitely subscribe to the channel. And I'm really curious about this glow mist 1/4 filter. I want to put it up against Tiffin Pro Mist 1/4 filter and see what the difference is and see how they perform. So if you're into that, I'm definitely going to be making a review and comparison video with these different filters and things like that. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. And peace out. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.